For centuries, if you lived on a remote island, your life was a battle against the forces of nature, the wind, the waves, the isolation. But what if all of that could be turned on its head? What if those very forces could become your greatest asset? Today, we're looking at two small islands doing just that. They're becoming these amazing pioneers, and they're offering the rest of us two very different blueprints for a clean energy future.
So, this is the big question we're tackling. I mean, it's a pretty incredible turnaround, right? You've got these communities that used to see the wild, untamed sea as their biggest problem, and now they're turning it into their greatest ally. So how exactly are they pulling this off? Let's dive in. All right, let's meet our two case studies, Orkney in Scotland and Samsø in Denmark. And right away, you can see they couldn't be more different. Orkney's got about 21,000 people, and it's stuck out there in the ferocious North Atlantic. Their whole strategy? Betting big on super high-tech R&D to tame the power of the sea. Then you have Samsø. It's this tiny farming island of only 4,000 people in the much calmer Baltic Sea. Their focus is totally different, a community-owned approach using technologies that are already proven to work. Two islands, two completely different paths to a revolution.
Okay, let's start with Orkney. And we need to be clear, this is not about just building a few wind turbines. This is a high-stakes, high-risk gamble. They're trying to unlock one of the most powerful and really one of the most untapped energy sources on the entire planet, the ocean itself.
Get a load of this number, 5,000 megawatts. This represents the sheer, mind-boggling scale of what Orkney is dreaming about. An early calculation figured its marine energy potential was that high. To put that in perspective, that is enough electricity to power over 1 million homes. We're talking about potentially replacing more than a third of all of Britain's nuclear power. The vision here is just massive. So what exactly are they trying to harness? Well, it's really two different forces. First, you've got wave power, which captures all that energy from the surface of the ocean, churning up and down. Then there's tidal power, which harnesses the relentless, predictable push and pull of the tides. Both are incredibly powerful, but figuring out how to actually capture that power, well, that's the real challenge. This quote from Eileen Linklater at the European Marine Energy Center, or EMEC, just perfectly nails the challenge they're up against. She says they're at probably about the same stage as the Wright brothers were when they first got a plane off the ground. So think about that. This isn't about fine-tuning existing tech. This is fundamental invention, where just getting off the ground for a few seconds is a monumental win. But, and this is a big but, the reality is pretty harsh. The ocean is a brutal, unforgiving place that just destroys machinery. The technology is also incredibly expensive, which you can imagine makes investors really nervous. And setbacks? They're just part of the game. A pioneering company called Pelamis, they developed this cool sea snake-like wave generator. Well, they ended up filing for insolvency. The point is, this is a long, expensive, and super uncertain road. Okay, now let's shift gears completely and head over to Samsø, where we find a whole different story. Seriously, if Orkney is a high-tech, futuristic lab, then Samsø is a real-world lesson in what a community can do right now with the tools we already have. This is a grassroots revolution, plain and simple. It all started with a competition back in 1997. The Danish government basically said, hey, who wants to try to become 100% renewable? The people of Samsø, who were facing a bit of an economic decline, jumped at the chance. And they created a master plan that wasn't forced on them from the top down. Nope, it was built from the bottom up, designed to answer one simple but incredibly powerful question for every single person on the island. What's in it for me? And their plan was just brilliantly practical. First, they took farm waste, basically leftover straw, and used it to fuel local heating plants. Bam, farmers get a new source of income. Second, they didn't just let some company build wind turbines, they owned them. Islanders bought shares, so they profited directly. And finally, to cover the stuff they couldn't get rid of yet, like gas for cars and ferries, they built an offshore wind park to offset those emissions.
And the results? They were just stunning. By 2008, only 10 years later, Samsø was producing 40% more energy than it was using. And look at these numbers. They didn't just wipe out a 10 million euro bill for importing energy, they created a 5 million euro export market and about 30 new jobs. It was a complete economic game changer.
This quote from the project leader, Søren Harmundsen, really reveals the secret sauce to their success. When people have a financial stake, when they literally own a piece of the solution, their whole perspective changes. All of a sudden, those objections about noise or shadows, they just kind of melt away. Ownership turns what could be a nuisance into a source of shared pride. So, Even though their approaches are worlds apart, both islands show us one universal truth. People are the absolute heart of this revolution. But, as we're about to see, what community actually means to them, well, it's totally different.
In Orkney, the community is this tight-knit family of scientists, engineers, and researchers. They might work for competing companies on paper, but they're all united by this shared obsession to solve this massive technical puzzle. They share what they learn, they hang out, and they're all pushing each other toward that one common goal.
Over on Samsø, community is defined by something much more tangible: shared financial ownership. For an electrician like Brian Keir, owning 7 shares in a wind turbine makes him feel proud. He's part of a collective effort. It's not just some abstract goal, it's a real, cooperative investment in their shared future.
But here's the thing. This sense of community, whether it's built on shared goals or shared ownership, it doesn't mean everything's perfect. On both islands, these bold, futuristic visions are starting to clash with traditional ways of life and local identity.
You hear it in the voice of Shaw Dennis, a lobster fisherman in Orkney. The problem is, these marine energy test sites are being put in the exact same waters his family has fished for generations. So for him, and a lot of others, this clean energy future feels like a direct threat to their livelihood.
And even on Samsø, the poster child for community ownership, there's conflict. A huge energy company wants to build a massive offshore wind park right next to a protected coastline. And the same residents who were thrilled to own a piece of their local turbines are now fighting what they see as a corporate, industrial monster threatening their natural heritage.
So, after digging into these two very different island stories, what are the big lessons here? What kind of blueprints do Orkney and Samsø offer the rest of us as we're all racing to figure out our own clean energy future?
This table really breaks it down nicely. On one side, you have the Orkney model. It's a top-down R&D-led moonshot. It's experimental, it's slow, and it's super high risk. But it could lead to a massive technological breakthrough. On the other side, you've got the Samsø model. It's the complete opposite, a bottom-up, community-led sprint using proven low-risk tech. And it proves that you can make incredibly fast change happen right now, just by empowering local people.
So what's the ultimate takeaway here? Well, it's not about choosing one model over the other. Orkney teaches us that world-changing breakthroughs take a ton of patience and serious long-term investment. But Samsø proves that empowering people through ownership can create dramatic change, like today. The real lesson is that the future of energy probably depends on a partnership between these two big ideas, the high-tech visionaries and the empowered communities on the ground.
Which really leaves us with this one critical question. As the pressure to decarbonize our world gets more and more intense, where should we be placing our bets? Do we go for the high-tech moonshots that promise a revolution tomorrow, or do we focus on the grassroots movements that can deliver real, tangible change today? The future of our planet might just depend on how we answer that.